Fellow Toastmasters, honored and distinguished guests, viewers at home. Tonight, it's Tuesday, January 5th.
January?
March.
Close enough.
It just feels.
It's gotta
like
be.
Not January
Was not my, my mouth was on its own on that one.
March.
I joked you, Raj.
Right.
So we're here tonight on March 5th, and we are having a different kind of event tonight. Rather than our usual Toastmaster event, we're going to have a club exhibition. And from that exhibition, we're going to select 2 individuals who will then go and compete at the area contest, which will be exactly right in this room a week from tonight. And the area contest will have winners or selected people from other clubs that in our area. There are 4 clubs that may also want to participate, and the winners from those go to the division, and the winners from the division, which is again just getting bigger and bigger, everyone's getting better, goes to the district. So tonight we're starting this process. We've normally done a contest, but we're going to do an exhibition tonight, so it's a little more informal. We aren't going to have judges, but all members are going to vote tonight. Okay. And Carmen is preparing ballots, so we'll have votes for Tall Tales and votes for the International Inspirational Contest, which is a 5 to 7 minute speech. So Tall Tales is 3 to 5 minutes. Guests, you get to just smile and look pretty. You won't be voting tonight, or handsome as the case may be. Also, I've decided that if you are one of the contestants, you don't vote, which is really, kind of puts the kibosh often on my strategy. But if I'm competing, but anyway, so Carmen, I think what I'd like to do now we need a timer, and Carmen, you are going to be our timer. You're prepared, and why don't let's do one. Well, first, let me finish one thought. Carmen's got ballots. When it's time to do ballots, she'll hand them out to the appropriate members. We are going to time, and Carmen, why don't you just give us how you're going to be timing the inspirational contest and also the table topics contest.
Table topic? No. Tall Tales.
Yes. Keep me on track. The Tall Tales.
Sure. Fellow Toastmasters, good evening. Honorable guests. So the timing for today is going to be for the inspirational speeches 3 to 5 minutes. No?
5 to 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5 to 7 minutes. So the green card is going to be at 5. The yellow one is going to be at 6. And the red one is going to be at 7. And we have 30 seconds to wrap up. And also the tall tales is going to be 3 to 5 minutes. The 3 minutes is going to be at green. The 4 minutes is going to be at yellow. And the 5 minutes is going to be at red. 30 seconds to wrap it up. And then we'll give my report at the end of the meeting.
Actually, we probably won't do a report, but we're just going to keep track, and we're going to give feedback to the contestants. So you want to keep an eye on Carmen. She'll be holding the card. It's really your job, competitors or exhibitors, to keep an eye on her and just be aware of what your time is. And Carmen, I'm going to suggest you move your bag slightly, or on the floor, yeah, so it's a little easier to see. Okay, great. Guess I'm going to, Terry's got a nice group here, and a new haircut, by the way, which is very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. Guests, could you just go ahead, stand up, give us your name, and I think we know why you're here, to support Terry, but just give us your name and maybe,
Where they're from.
yeah, where you're
He's
from.
coming at great expense.
Where you're from originally. Okay, that means stand. Jude.
Hello everyone, my name is Fatima. I'm originally from Iran, but I've come from Los Angeles. I'm here to support Terry and her beautiful tales and stories.
Okay.
And happy to meet you all.
All right, great. Now clapping. So we do a lot of clapping here. I am not allowed to clap, which is another pinch on my soul. So let's just go ahead, thank you. Charlie?
My name is Charlie. My voice is not too good. I'm here to support Terry. And what else did you want to know?
And then, like, maybe where you're from, you know,
Oh, I'm
basically,
from
other than
Alabama.
here. Alabama,
Roll Tide.
okay. Yeah, all right.
I'm Lucy from, actually I live in Fairfield, but I'm from Chicago, Milwaukee area before that. And I'm here for Terry too, yeah.
And we have a former member, great to see you. Don't you, Raj?
Yeah, my name is Jyotiraj and I've been member for like 7 years. And in between we moved to Cedar Rapids and we are back now here to Fairfield. And I'll be back again. Nice to see this. So I'll be here
All
again.
right,
Thank
all
you.
right, excellent, thank you. Okay. I think we're gonna go ahead and let the games begin. I would like to have a title from each of the competitors for your talk so that we can announce you with your title. Okay, so could you jot that down on something?
Sure.
And get that to me. I'm gonna be watching this.
We got lots of pens.
I just need a piece of paper.
Okay, if that's okay, okay. I can't read this. Oh. Okay. That's easy.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, and now put your name, yeah, there you are. Gotcha. Okay. Title, so important, really sets the audience up,
Okay, here's mine.
okay? Good. Okay.
Jonesboro. Jonesboro is nothing to stir.
All right, we have a moment of silence. Everyone just settles in. As is often the tradition with this contest, we're gonna start with the tall tales first, which we've never done, but the table topics usually goes first, and then we'll finish with the inspirational contest. Now we determined the order of the speakers ahead of the time, and our first speaker is going to be, it's Terry, right? Okay, so now follow the Toastmasters, because clapping is great, and that's what we want all of our speakers to hear. So we just need to make sure it's at the right time. So I'll go like this. I'll go like this, and that says you can clap and just follow everybody else. All right. So please help me warmly welcome Terry Harnish, Jonesboro or bust. Wait a minute. No. You guys. I know.
We like Terry.
I know, but
We like
you-
clapping.
no,
He's so handy.
All right, Terry even knows this is incorrect. Terry, let's just have this be a teaching moment, okay? So here we go. Don't move until I do this, okay? Because we're teaching you regular contest protocol. This is how they do it at contests. Please help me warmly welcome Terry Harnish, Jonesboro or bust. Jonesboro or bust, Terry Harnish.
Oh, great.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, invited guests, and all of those watching at home. Tonight, I'm sharing with you once upon a time in 1996, I, as a fledgling Toastmaster and storyteller, decided I would apply to go to Jonesboro, Tennessee, the national home of storytelling. And I rang the 800 number to register. I was running a small bed and breakfast and had no money for accommodation. And when I rang, I subtly said to the registrar, "Is there any chance that one could stay free?" And she laughed and she said, "Free? In Jonesboro? They're booked 10 years in advance. Unless you're one of the storytellers on the main stage, there isn't a home in hell." And I said, "Just take my name and number and create a miracle for me." And she said, "We don't create miracles in Jonesboro." And I said, "Well, just take my name and number." So I forgot about it. And 2 weeks went by, and my aunt lived with me, and she met me at the door. I was out at the grocery store, and she said, "Jonesboro called. They have a free room for you." And I thought, oh my God, an answer to my prayer. And so I rang Catherine Crawley, and I said, "I'm coming, I'm very excited." And I said, "Is there any problem?" She said, "We have 2 major problems." I said, "Oh, what could they be?" She said, "Terry, how do you feel about cats?" I said, "I like cats." She said, "Have you ever had a cat?" I said, "Yes, I had Buttons." She said, "I live in a house that's 200 years old, and Miss Martha is 92, and she's had 75 cats living on the 2nd floor of the house, peeing and pooping on the pine floors, on the radiators, on the windowsills." She said, "I now occupy the 2nd floor, and since I moved here from Texas to study storytelling in Johnson City, I've done everything in my power to get rid of the smell." She said, "Miss Martha has had to give up 50 of the 75 cats, and 25 are now in a pen outside in the yard." I said, "Well, where does Miss Martha live?" "Well, she's on the 1st floor because she's 92 and can't climb the steps." So this is my vision of Miss Martha. And so Miss Martha decided that having only 25 cats was probably all she could handle at 92. So I said, "Catherine, what would you suggest?" She said, "I'd suggest lots of rose oil to put up your nose and lots of incense, or it's going to drive you crazy." I said, "If that's number 1, what's number 2? She said, "Terry, how do you feel about trains?" I said, "Well, trains don't work in Nova Scotia." I said, "They're long gone." And she said, "Well, the train in Jonesboro starts on one side of the town. It's a freight train, and it blows its whistle for the entire journey through Jonesboro. The house is right on the track, and the house is so old that the bed that you're going to sleep in, I only have one bed, it's an army cot on rollers. And when the train keeps coming, the bed shuffles right across and slams into the wall." I said, "Oh, great." I said, "How many beds do you have?" "1. She said, "We have 7 other storytellers from around the world staying here, but they all will have to sleep on foam on the floor. So get here early or you're going to miss out on the army cot." I said, "Please, God, don't let me sleep on the floor." And so, as you can well imagine, my free trip to Jonesboro was quite an education. And I only went back this year after 22 years of absence. And I Googled Catherine the other night, and she teaches English in Saudi Arabia. And she remembered me. Hallelujah! And so, if you'd like to feel what cats look like, pass around Miss Martha. And Jonesboro, I will keep going back year after year after year. it's really the only place. This year, 15,000 storytellers and listeners from around the world were there. And it's always the first weekend in October. Jonesboro is the oldest town in Tennessee. So hallelujah. Isn't she cute?
Almost smell the cat aroma.
Oh, it was wicked. Was it 2 years afterwards that my cosmetic bag, I washed it, I hung it out on the clothesline. It still reeked of cat pee. It never went away.
75 cats, that is down to even 25. All righty, well, good. So thank you very much, Terry, for that tall tale. Our next exhibitor,
Can I ask a question?
yeah?
Is a tall tale, isn't a tall tale necessarily fiction? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay, I just,
Well,
thank you.
it's general, there's an exaggeration. So Terry has not told us anything. I mean, you know, there could have been 5 cats. And Terry blew it up to 75 cats.
Good point, okay,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
we don't know.
Okay.
Okay, but that's a good question. All right. So our next contestant is our newest member is, and so he gets lots of kudos for coming up here and competing right away or just exhibiting right away. Please help me warmly welcome. Oh, yeah, so that's a good reminder. Please turn off devices that may decide to interrupt. So please help me warmly welcome Aaron Russell, Frogzilla. Frogzilla, Aaron Russell.
Fellow Toastmasters, tonight I'm going to tell you the story of how I overcame one of the hideous and most spine-tinglingly terrifying creatures that I have ever encountered. Well, this day began just like any other Saturday in a teenage boy's life. Woke up at the crack of noon, walked out, looked outside the window well of my basement bedroom to greet the bright, shining sun's rays. But what greeted me instead was something so terrifying that its image will be forever burned into my retinas. An American bullfrog. Now at this point I should probably clarify that I have an irrational fear of frogs and toads, but make no mistake, for this was no run-of-the-mill amphibian. Oh no, this beast was large enough to consume a human in a single gulp, and it had eyes that stared so intently and yet so blankly they'd question if it was even alive. But that theory was quickly proven false when the beast let out a bellow so deep and so powerful that it shook my entire bedroom. And it lashed out its tongue that was long enough to outstretch a school bus. And the only thing saving me from a wretched doom was my window that the beast had obviously failed to notice. And with that image buried in my mind, I ran upstairs to tell my father what I had seen. Dad, there's a giant frog in my window well. Well, he laughed it off as simply just a trick of the light, but his jaw hit the floor when he saw what was actually in my window well. And we began to theorize what sort of mad scientist experiment, what sort of toxic waste dump could have produced this mutant monstrosity. But there was one thing that we both knew. We had to do something about this thing. Well, my gut instinct was to say, let's kill it with fire. But my dad said, oh no, that is not the humane and rational thing to do. Instead, we need to catch it and release it into the wild. Yeah, I guess just so I can go and kill someone else later on. Well, I couldn't even bear to watch as my dad tried to trap it. And after I'm sure what is a violent and extremely bloody struggle, my dad managed to procure this frog inside of a giant coffee tin. Folger's dark roast to be exact. And so with the beast encased inside of its plastic prison, my father and I got in our car to go towards the pond. My dad in the passenger seat, my dad in the driver's seat, I in the passenger seat, and the frog safely placed underneath my legs, underneath the glove box. Or so I thought. For as we neared the pond, boom, all of a sudden, the tin leapt up into the air. The frog tried to escape, but to no avail. But just as it landed, boom, it leapt up into the air again, this time hitting the roof of the car before landing back down until one more boom. The frog had pushed open the lid, flown it across the car, and there he stood, ready to strike at me as we were nearing the pond. But before he had the chance to lash out with his slimy tongue, I picked up the tin, kicked open the car door, ran outside, and threw the frog back to the depth from which it came. And without even a moment's glance, I jumped back into the car, said, "Drive, drive, drive, you fool!" My dad cranked it into reverse, pulled back onto the freeway, and we drove off. And I looked back one final time, and I saw, all I saw was those eyes just staring back at me with such intensity and blankness. And that beast will free forever, encased in my mind as Frogzilla.
In case you happen to think he's never been a Toastmaster before, I should have disclosed that. He has been a Toastmaster with a club up at John Deere, up in the Quad Cities, so we're really delighted to have him. He does have some skills there. Okay. All right. So now we are going to do a member vote. I had this whole thing figured out if we had more than two. It was going to be a little more like a judge, the way a judge do, but Dan and I realized that it really just didn't really make any difference if we just have two. So, Carmen, you'll give out ballots, but leaving out Aaron and Terry.
And the guests.
And the guests, of course. Yeah, like the guests, you guys are just, you're there looking, you know, happy and here to help and support. Witch hats now. No more tall tales. Now we're heading into the inspirational international contest. This is a 5 to 7 minute talk, and it's generally designed to have some inspirational quality to it or insights like that. And this is the speech that goes beyond the division. So the winner of, the district, the winner who works their way up and wins at the district then goes on to represent District 19, which is basically the state of Iowa, and moves on and actually can go to the World Championship of Public Speaking that Toastmasters holds every year. It's a very big deal, and you're speaking to, you know, thousands. So it's a big deal, very, very high level. And it starts here at the club. All right. As I mentioned before, for this contest or this exhibition, keep calling it exhibition, the gentlemen here have selected an order. So we're going to have, we're gonna start. So everyone, great. Please help me warmly welcome Ron Kerr, A Morning to Remember. A Morning to Remember, Ron Kerr.
Fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, viewers at home. A morning to remember. Step back in time with me. We're going to go back to actually the 9/11, 2012. I had been taking good care of myself, but something wasn't right here, and it was getting worse. So we ran some tests, and I went in to see the doctor after those tests were done, and she said, "Oh, I just got the results, sit down." And she, cancer, and she jumped up, ran out, and a lot of commotion. I was running around testing. About 2 hours later, I ended up in a little tiny cubicle, sitting as a urologist, right, like this. We're here to hear it. He said, "You have a massive cancerous tumor in your bladder. It's blocked off your left ureter," which, as you know, the tubes from your kidneys that take the fluid into your bladder. That one's already left off. Your left kidney's dying as we speak. It's headed to your right one. The only thing we can do is to remove your bladder. You'll live 3, maybe 5 years, and I got a kick out of this part. And quality of life, he really grins, poor. Cancer, me? No, this is now, that's my side. Can't have cancer. 2, 3 to 5 years, miserable, a premature, miserable death sentence, and I'm supposed to, yeah, sure, sign me up for that, why don't you? And wait a minute, cancer. Every time I heard about cancer, the fight about cancer, the war on cancer, the battle against. I'm an ex-Marine sergeant, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I get that, but I don't get this, you tell me to roll over and die. And I had one of these major metamorphoses. All of a sudden, even though I'd been out of the Marines over 40 years, all of a sudden, I was back in uniform. And I was ready to, let's just put it this way, I got my feisty back. And I said, no, there's going to be a fight here, pal. There are a lot of details, but we're going to jump forward now to late November 2016. I'd been through a lot of stuff. And then I stood up one morning, and then I fell down. And the next thing I know, we're over at the hospital, and Dr. Karamova saying, well, we can fly him up we can bring the helicopter and fly him up to Dubai. No, I was in Vietnam. I was in choppers. They're cold. You go, if it gets cold quick and very loud, let's just drive. That's the last thought I had. Next thing I do, I wake up and I'm in ICU. I'm like, I never saw so many things stuck in both arms. I couldn't really use my hands. I'm laying there. It's cold. It's loud. I'm freezing. And I just couldn't make any sense of what's going on. What is this? Well, fortunately, I only had to do 3 days and 2 nights of that. And then finally, they moved me into a quiet room. And it was so quiet and warm and peaceful. And they brought me in a tray of food. I hadn't seen food in, at that point, it's about 3 days. And it was like, I couldn't even imagine eating it. I was so dehydrated, my tongue had stuck to the side of my mouth. And I really was realizing that I couldn't really formulate words even if I wanted to. I couldn't really get anything out. Now, inside, I've been doing Marshy's Translated Meditation, and it's such a deep, profound anchor to who and what we are. And so even with all of that commotion, deep inside I was all right. I knew I was okay, but I couldn't make any sense of things. You know, it's one thing to have the waves lapping your ear, but the waves are like this. And so there, I was laying there, and they turned the lights out. And I thought, I'm done. I got nothing left. I kind of kept bouncing back from all the other things that happened, but there's no more bounce. I felt like I was scraping the bottom with my teeth. So finally I said, all right. It was one thing to be willing to fight like the Marine Corps taught me, but sometimes that doesn't mean you always win, but you got to fight. So then I just said, God, I'm done. I'm out of here. Take me away. I got a wonderful wife, great kids, a couple of great grandkids. I had a good life. I tried to do the best I could, but I'm done. And then I fell into this abyss, like you fall of the, you see, way on down. And then all of a sudden I woke up and it was a cartoon. Blue sky, sunshine, birds chirping. We're on the coast and little waves lapping. Phyllis and I could see us walking down. We're holding hands in hands. We're laughing and joking. I had a shirt on. So I didn't know what happened to my bladder because they always wanted to cut out my bladder. And I didn't want that to happen. So I didn't know. And I got it. There's a couple of speed bumps ahead. I'm not quite out of the woods yet. And as I'm pondering that, all of a sudden, God spoke to me. And I've done my Sunday school. I've been at church. And I've done my homework. It was God. He, she, it, God. And it went like this. Now, I used to say I had a conversation with God, but well, you don't, what are you going to say to God? Like, God don't know? Big surprise. Oh, you didn't know this. Let me tell you something, God. Right. Well, that's not what my Sunday school taught you. They know. He knows. It knows. She knows. And it went like this. Ron, I'm not trying to kill you. And I'm like, God didn't see this coming. I said, okay. You're going to have a long, healthy life. Oh, okay. But I had to get your attention. Now, I know you probably never heard about a pig-headed man that just couldn't run fast enough into the brick wall or climb fast enough up that ladder on the wrong wall. Well, that was me. I had kind of lost my way, and I was just striking out in every direction, trying to regain myself. So I got that. And then he says, now here's all you need to do for the rest of your life. Now, with my history, I'm kind of like, I always wanted to be the manly man. I wanted to be right there on top, around the edge of everything. And so high school stunts, and then I joined the Marines and Vietnam, and then we got Sterling, if you know that, and then New Warriors, and then even Freemasonry. Everything was masculine. And if you fall down, suck it up, get up, that kind of stuff. I get that. But it was like, so I'm figuring, okay, here comes another test. What do you want, God? Climb the Himalayas in my gym shorts. Whatever you want, I'll do it. He says, no. Be nice to people. And help them if you can. So be nice to people, help people. I can do that. I can do that. My gosh, I can do that. In fact, I'd like to do that. Way back they talk about that, the God conversation you have in the foxhole, you know what I mean? Okay, take me away. Well, no, let's not be too hasty about this. Let's see if we can cut a little deal, maybe there's a little room, a little slack in here. Be nice to people and help them if you can. And I gotta say, it has transformed my life because all of a sudden, I have the bottom line default mission and purpose for every day of my life. And now I find myself thinking, I go into a situation, it's not like, it's just, what's the nicest thing I can do here in this situation? How can I help? It doesn't matter who it is, wherever it is, whether they want it or not, but what I discovered is, it's not enough to be willing to help them. And help them if you can. Not everyone wants your help, but you do have to be willing to offer. And let it go with that.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. So our next speaker is Veda Royale. Please help me warmly welcome Veda Royale. Even an atheist can believe in God. Even an atheist can believe in God. Veda Royale.
Madam Toastmaster, Toastmasters and guests. I've been working for days on wonderful themes, but I just couldn't get it together. It seems like I've had my own ups and downs this week, and I had at least 3 speeches I went through, partially wrote today. So I came to just talking about my grandfather. And to me, he was such an example of goodness, courage, and success. It seemed very interesting when I was growing up. I felt he was really a very successful person. And if you had looked at that on the surface, you would have seen a man who was in his 80s and then lived to about 100, and you would just see a man who was a simple tailor, who barely could speak English. He just still spoke German from growing up in a Russian town and that's what they spoke, German and Yiddish. He couldn't even remember Russian. I couldn't figure it out, but I finally found out he really didn't speak Russian growing up. But he was so successful because he had courage and he had faith. He was born in 1885 and he grew up seen by his parents as a duffer, as they say in Pakistan, a duffer. They thought he was, maybe he was shy, but they thought, let's keep him out of trouble, let's make him a tailor. Well, soon he was the head of the union in Russia, and he was an atheist and he was a communist. I mean, actually, he was a socialist. It was before the communists. And pretty soon he was in trouble with the Tsar, and he was protecting a group of 6 women from the Tsar, but he ended up having to sleep. They said he had to sleep in a different bed every night. I thought that meant he had to go from place to place, but maybe that was a little different. The story was that he was such a revolutionary mind that he just was really enamored of one of the girls. He kissed her and said, you're my wife. And then by the time I knew him, he had just become continued to be a tailor, but he said that he had escaped death 3 times. And I don't know which 3 times it was, but it seems like he was sure that he had divine providence. It seemed like he really believed in God, even though he said he was an atheist. So I remember a lot of stories about his life, and I could speculate on what those 3 times were. But one of those was when he went into the army. After he was being chased by the Tsar, maybe that was the first time, and he went into the army. He was about to go into the army, and he said to the guy in the line in front of him, can I borrow a ruble? My poor mother, I have to go see my poor mother. Got the ruble, escaped the Tsarist Russian army, which was 25 years, and got on a train and went to Vienna, Austria. And there he got a job as a tailor, where he stayed until 1938. And in 1938, the Nazis came into town, and he was standing by the side of the road, and he was up against the wall, and they were very intimidating. They came down, and I guess a guy with maybe an iron glove or something took a shot at him, and he jumped out of the way, and the guy smashed his hand on the wall. And then there was a time when they came to the house, the stormtrooper police, and my father was 15 at that time, and they said, is the Ruyuk family there? And he says, my father looked up and says, Ruyuk? He's thinking, we're Royak, so he's thinking, we're Royak. No one there of that name. And they left. But things were getting very bad, and so they were able to find relatives in America to come across, and they're very lucky to get across. The day they were going to leave on the ship, they had all their things in storage on the dock, and the porter did the inspection and said, no, you cannot come on this ship because the boy has an infection on his finger. Can't you see he has an infection on his finger? So I had to wait for the next ship. That ship was blown up. So you never know who's watching after you. Later, their entire contents of their goods, all their possessions, up in a flash from a bomb. But they were across. There's kind of a fun story about what kind of man my grandfather was. When he was quite young, he was digging on the shore. I guess it was in Vienna. And he found a whole huge treasure trove of gold. And he thought, someone could be coming back for this. And he put it back in and buried it again. It could have been from Roman times. But he was that honest. And later on, he just worked as a simple tailor. When he was in his 60s, he got Parkinson's and had to stop working. But he seemed to get better and kept working part-time in Manhattan. And then just lived out his life very simply. He walked about 5 miles a day. And he just enjoyed his life and his 3 children, who had moved to different places in the United States. So when I think about my grandfather, I think about the simple courage he had, the simple love, and the simple just pleasure in being alive that he brought and showed all of us. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Inspirational talks today that produced some real emotions, I think. Yeah, so the rules about the exhibition speeches are, we're not so stringent on the timing. Normally in a contest, if you're over, and you're DQ'd. That is not an ice cream cone. That is, you are disqualified. However, my understanding, as it was explained to me, it was an exhibition. It's just a way to get a sense for people who are speaking of where they are coming in on time, and that they can, if they are going on, then they work on that. Okay, so it's a little different. We're usually very time sensitive. Alrighty. Carmen's doing a wonderful job being our timer. Let's clap for her. Now we want to hand out ballots for members other than contestants. What we'll do is take a look at our results, and maybe we could, should we have someone just maybe do a, Jan, you had an idea? You just went,
I'm just playing with my tooth.
okay. Maybe we have a table topics or two. Someone who,
Evaluations for the speeches.
you know, that's a different idea, and I kind of like that too. Okay, see, I'm watching time. So what I'd like to do is, Carmen, if you could time like a 1 to 2 minute. Yeah, 1 to 2 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll do a panel. We'll just do a panel evaluation. It's more informal than I'm making it sound. Just if you have, we could go right through Terry, and then Aaron, and then Ron, and then Veda. And if you have something, so time it, just like 1 to 2. Yeah. 1 to 2, that's it? Okay. So, you know, if you assume that any one of the speakers could be going on, what advice would you offer, or what feedback? And again, it's just your own perspective, and I'm looking at members because they do know how to evaluate, but just give some comments, and then they can absorb that. Even if they're not going on, they may give the speech that they gave at another time, so it'd be nice for them to have that feedback as well. Peter, would you run that maybe? Just kind of keep an eye on it. I don't think it'll take us that long, but so let's start with Terry. And you can just call on people. If you have something that you'd like to mention to Terry for her story, and kind of, you know, just want to raise your hand and let Peter, you call on people and let them give their comments to Terry.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
And then the timing is over when Carmen says it's over.
Yeah,
Then we're
Carmen,
done.
you just, yeah.
I guess with the.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So, any comments? Yes, Veda.
Thank you, Peter. The obvious comments start with the question about tall tales. And I think as a tall tale to go on further in the contest, not that it wasn't a very amusing and, but knowing Terry, it was probably all true. Since it's very calmed down from the actual stories I've heard from Terry and my actual experience. But it would be easy to make it into a tall tale by, say, not 75 cats, but 150 cats in one room. And just that image of, we were afraid that, she did make it down to the first floor, but we were afraid of, we had to have the firefighters extricate her from underneath the pile of cats. The other suggestion would be more of the visual, like the train going by and I had some there was plants on the windowsill and they were just jumping up and down. I mean, the examples that the bullfrog from Aaron gave us were just obviously so exaggerated because he had a giant bullfrog. It got into a small can, so we knew that he couldn't have been telling the truth. So the object of untruthfulness, that's my comment for Terry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Veda.
Anyone else for Terry? We want to keep them kind of short and pithy so people have to have time we get more feedback. How are we in time?
I think.
Yeah.
So, is this still for Terry?
Yeah.
Okay, then one point.
Well, we all know Terry's amazing storytelling abilities. I think she could amp it up a little and use her animation and voice variation and surprises and leaping and whatnot. I know she could do that even more.
Our next speaker was Aaron. Does anyone have a comment for Aaron?
But let's get some people that haven't talked yet.
I can give it to someone else.
Okay, give it to someone else. I want to get some, and then we'll come back, Veda. So anyone have any other comments?
Carmen
Has a comment? Okay.
So it was a surprise for all of us, I think, that you are making such a good speech. And congratulations. I really like when you approach the tale and you make a lot of gestures. It's specific for each person when you just make eye contact. That's pretty good. But at the same time, your voice, it's a lot of help too. Sometimes you didn't have a lot of eye contact to the audience. That's what I noticed it. But with such a great speech, I think it's all good.
Okay, so it's really focused on the suggestions for improvement here as well. So someone who hasn't spoken yet. Okay, me. I'm allowed to do that, right? Okay, I would echo the eye contact. I don't think I saw you meeting anyone's eyes in the story, and you could do that. You could say, and it was just the biggest frog I have ever seen and I'm horrified. I am terrified of frogs. You could also do, you could make eye contact with the frog in the window, like, because he had these big eyes and blank and something, and you could just like, and that would be kind of a fun thing. But just more eye contact because you seemed lost. Not lost. You were very, very good, but you were in your world, and I would just say include the audience. That was my one comment. Okay. Veda, you want something? We got that? Okay. Okay. All righty. Well, if we're done with Aaron, then let's move on to Ron. You can start the clock again. Comments for Ron?
I feel, Ron, you're great. Your delivery is great. You have to speak a little louder. It's very challenging for people like myself who's slightly hearing impaired. You've got such a soft voice. If you raise a few decibels, that would help.
Good, well, thank you.
Okay.
They used to tell me that the Marines, Sarge, speak up, we can't hear you.
I think posture, you tend to lean a little bit too much forward.
Okay.
Like this, you know, you're going like this, stand up more and open up, get your lungs open, basically.
Which will help with what Terry's talking
Yeah,
about, right?
yeah.
Okay. Someone else? Okay. I'm just gonna mention some, okay.
And you can move back and forth. You sort of we're centered over on this side. You know, you can walk your talk.
Yeah,
Or outline it
Like
a
as
little
you-
bit, like the one.
when
Okay.
all these things happen, you walk back and forth, you kind of go with your head like you're thinking about something that happened. In other words, some kind of emotional body language. Because this was a very body language type of talk. You feel that more.
Your angel.
You could also, the morning, remember your title, you could have the morning, that whatever that morning date was, and then you said fast forward and it's now November 2016, and to help the audience see, yeah, there's been time that's gone by.
I know.
You know, you could help a little bit that way. I just want to say one thing along with the vocal. So I am not hearing impaired, and I was sitting pretty closely, and I still also had trouble hearing. So it's really something, and I know you've heard that before. So, you know, just to think in terms of someone sitting, you know, 2 rooms down there, and that they need to hear it. And then secondly, the speed. Sometimes you just whip off these little asides, and A, you're soft, and B, you kind of speed up, like, oh, God, well, you know, like that, and it's good stuff, but you can't hear it, and it actually kind of clutters a little bit. So that would be my thing, is pick something juicy and good that God says to you, or you say back, and then don't riff on it too much, because then that's when it gets hard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, I'd say, what's the message to the audience? Is there, what is the, you know, what is the take-home point out of all of that? Because you explain your story, you talk about God telling you, and it's, you know, it's clear you're being told, be not kind to people and help them, be nice or kind of. But so, what can the audience take away with that? And, you know, you recommend it, or it's something that you've learned and anyway, that's something like that conclusion. All right. Okay. Anyone else for Ron? Blah, blah, blah. I gotta stop talking. When I can't move my hand, the mouth goes faster or goes more. Let's go, if we're done with Ron. And of course, if you think of something else before we leave, you can, after we break up, you can go ahead and tell him as well. So, Veda. Thoughts, feedback for Veda?
I thought at one stage, Veda, you were crying. You looked so sad, talking about your grandfather.
Yeah.
And then you went into your pocket to look at your notes, and I thought I could see tears coming off your cheeks.
Uh-huh.
Is that a thing he shouldn't do, or? Is
Well, no, it
No,
just,
I think it's a good,
it's good.
I think it was good,
Also,
yeah.
it has some authenticity.
You could,
Yeah.
in other words, the expression, I felt that when he was talking about his grandfather, that emotion, you know, you could, I don't know, take a handkerchief out and, you know, blow your nose or something.
Kind of
That's,
rubbed it in, on
Yeah,
him
yeah.
and,
I don't know, that would,
okay. All right, what else in terms of that?
He was pretty stationary.
Yeah.
He didn't move about.
well, he stands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And your arms, more movement with,
More gesturing.
more gestures.
So, and it could be that if since he's got basically the grandfather's story in a way, and he's moving from Russia, and then he goes to Vienna, and then he could sort of help us keep track of where the grandfather is by doing some staging, you know, perhaps, and then also really have a couple of clear vignettes about your grandfather, because I mean, that thing about the gold, finding the gold, and then going, oh, someone could be coming for it, and that's a very cool story. So pick you know, maybe 3 stories that really put it together, and maybe in the different locations, and I think we get to know your grandfather really well, and it's and I know you said you were struggling to get it to all come together, but that would be, sounds like a great guy.
And when did he die and how?
He died of,
Parkinson's?
no, he died of, I guess, probably prostate cancer, but it was just his way out, because we used to ask him if he wanted to live to more than 100, he would say, 100's enough.
And how old was he when he actually died?
We think he was 99,
Oh, really?
but we're not sure, because
And you might want to mention where he was
Yeah,
when he died?
yeah, in Manhattan.
So you can decide, you could always
Yeah,
decide
it's
this,
so
you
many
don't have to get
details.
into, yeah, you don't,
I think I went to 7 minutes, 30 seconds just on the details I had, but
yeah. So 3 things, you're not trying to give his life story in per se, and there may be parts of it that are not interesting, so. Okay, other comments for Vega? Carmen?
So I think you have to need to focus more on the audience, because you were over there and I
Yeah.
was just with this car and you
Right.
didn't even look at it when it was green. And then I checked it a little bit and then just your present attention, so you didn't see any one of us actually. And the speech, you have to be short, that it was 7 minutes with 41 seconds.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be
Okay.
important.
Last one.
Yeah, I can see you thinking. Your eyes, you're going and your eyes go up to the right. When your eyes go up to the right, you're integrating left and right. And you're thinking about what you're going to say. There's some thought, and it's kind of slows down.
So you're saying practice would have been helpful,
Well,
some additional
I don't know.
practice?
It's just an observation. I don't know what it
Yeah.
means.
It's tough because, you know, we only had a week to prepare, Leah, then I guess the use of note cards can be a little distracting
Yeah.
too, trying to filter through which note card you're on right now.
I would have some comments on my own speech. Just briefly, I probably had less than half an hour to prepare that speech. And I prepared some of the note cards during the meeting. Unfortunately, that's not really ideal.
Yeah. So,
However, the thing that I was aiming to do was have an introduction and a conclusion on it. And I don't know how successful I was at that, but the coherence of having some beginning and ending idea, did that come across to the audience? That would be a question.
you're asking,
But the title was, again,
yeah, how even an atheist can believe in God.
so how did that sort of come through to us?
I mean, I did mention in the speech, but it's not an introduction or a conclusion.
Was he an atheist?
I did mention that he was an atheist, yes.
He wasn't
Okay, so
Jewish?
here's the thing, you will feel free of, and obviously preparation is key.
Right,
So,
without
you-
preparation, I have no practicing whatsoever. That was
Yeah.
my first time through the speech.
So
Okay.
there, if you haven't had that experience where you waited and then you did a speech at the last minute for whatever reason and then tried to give it, it can be a learning experience. Because then you just
Yeah,
go,
that's
wow, that was not fun.
I did not want to come in and say, I mean, I was like definitely, about 7:15, I was about to say, I do not have a speech.
Okay.
I will,
Well, so kudos for
It was a very
committing,
good-
committing and coming through, and sometimes life happens.
Sure.
In general, we just wanna, make sure we leave time for make our speeches and have a little time to practice some, because then they're more fun. And, fun is a key component of giving a speech.
I
Didn't
guess
you
I-
have fun, Aaron?
I did, yeah.
You had fun. Yeah.
I
So
would
it's
say
okay.
2 things though. I had other speeches that I practiced, so there were some ideas I incorporated. So practicing any speech definitely helps. And the second was watching other people give their speeches definitely helped me to do my speech.
Okay, up your game a bit. Alrighty. Okay, well, thank you. Let's have a round of applause for everyone who got up here. Oh, who's doing that wonderful, yeah. It was doing wonderful clapping. Okay, well, so I do have some results. And of course, we thank everyone who participated. We are only allowed to send 1 for each contest. I did check that. I thought we might be able to send 2, but we only get to send 1. We want to thank Carmen for doing the timing. We've already clapped for you, so we'll spare on that. So let's just go ahead. I don't want to say winner because it was kind of informal, but the person that looks like is going to go ahead to the area contest is Erin for our Tall Tales.
Oh, great.
So come on up. Okay. And then, you stay here a second. And then Ron Kerr is going to go for our inspirational contest. So come on up. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Between now and next week, anyone can get the flu. So if either of you find that you're not going to be able to participate, you know who to go to fill in. Okay. Okay? So again, a round of applause for our contestants. You guys sit down. Okay. We're going to switch over to the area contest. I now can tell Lisa Purcell's our division director and our acting area director, who is not eligible to fulfill roles next week. And that means everyone else could be asked to be a timer or to be a judge. She has to make sure there's balanced representation. It's a contest. It is a full-fledged contest next week. So what that means is we need to be here no later than 7 o'clock. Okay, because our contests start at 7:30. I don't know how many contestants are going to come. That's Lisa's job to get contestants. But we're here at 7, and we can do judge training. There'll be a chief judge that'll do judge training. There'll also be some contestant instructions and selection of order and all of that kind of stuff. So just, can we commit 7
Sure.
o'clock? I mean, we have the shortest amount of travel of anybody. Okay, yes, Peter?
The meeting starts at 7, or we are here at 7?
We
to
are
prepare?
here. We're here at 7 so that by 7:30 we're ready to start.
Okay.
And how are we gonna stage it so we can get the
There's gonna be
maximum?
more people coming.
There's gonna be
Yeah,
tons of
yeah,
people.
we're probably
We'll
gonna
go
go
to
back
theater
to our
seating.
original Plan A seating, which is the rows. We have some
Okay.
seatings there. So let's hope this room was looking quite different than it is right now. Okay, so
There's gonna be food?
Lisa is actually bringing food. She likes to bring food. Anyone who wants to bring food can bring food. Food is never turned away. Okay. But we traditionally, I mean, that's Lisa's area. She's the acting area director. So
Where is she coming out of, what club?
she's the division director, so she covers 4 areas. She's up in Iowa City. I think that's what you're asking. Iowa City or Cedar Rapids, one of those. Okay, so we're gonna call the meeting, we're gonna break it down. We're hot on the trail for the lights. They are in one of our possession, so please take a look. Even if you don't think you have it, take a look, because we broke that down that event night and people were taking stuff because we had to get out of the library and we were on a time limit. Okay, so with that, any final questions? We're good? Okay. I want to welcome our 3 members. Now they are officially members. So we have Erin, and we have Terry, and we have Ron. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Please stay and help us put things